my favorite Bills player is Josh Allen. We love him. He's cute.
The house needed a paint job anyways, and my neighbor moved in and he put up the Jets flag, and I said, it's on.
My husband drank my friend's breast milk at a tailgate, so that was a little weird.
Yeah, that was weird, but it made me laugh. That was Ashley, a member of the Bills Mafia, near the end of episode 2 of Hard Knocks, talking about breast milk. Sounds like she's told that story before. Welcome to the official Hard Knocks podcast recap after episode 2. We thank you for being here. My name is Andrew Siciliano. Episode 2 was great. Episode 2 brought the backstory. It brought the origin story into it for so many players. It also had, for the very first time, and I know some people wanted this, a little bit of conflict, a little bit of tension, a little bit of frustration. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk about the backstories, because training camp is about the backstory. Training camp is about the journey. There are 90 men on an NFL roster. A lot of people say the preseason's meaningless. Get on with it. Let's get to week 1. No. It's why Hard Knocks is so good, because you have so many stories to unpack from these 90 players. I have called preseason football for now 15 years. 14 years with the Rams in St. Louis and in Los Angeles, and now here with the Browns. When you're watching a preseason game, consider how difficult it is to get to the NFL. I did some numbers here. I did a little Google. So there are millions of Americans that play high school football every year. Roughly only 7% of them go on to play major college football. They're like 130 major college football programs, FBS college football programs. Of those major college programs, somewhere between 0.015, not 0.15, 0.015 and 0.04 of those players make it to the National Football League. Think about that. So when you're watching a game and you go, who cares? Think about that. This player on the field has worked his entire life to get here. Like, his story deserves to be told. His parents are watching, or they're in the stands. And if they're in the stands, they're taping the game, or they're going to go back and watch that game later, because he might be cut tomorrow. Like, next guy up, next guy in. You got to tell those stories. And that's why this episode is great, because you hear the touching stories. Damar Hamlin, for example, Sean McDermott's battle with skin cancer. And you hear the goofy stories like KJ Hamler or Joe Andreesen. Joe Andreesen, how cool is it, the fact that he used to wear a Matt Milano jersey and now he plays with Matt Milano? He grew up down the street. Now he's a member of the Buffalo Bills. But we don't see the Ray Davis backstory. And his backstory, let's do a brief aside here, needs to be told. He's a second-year running back, played his college football at Kentucky, was a very productive back. He went to 3 different colleges, bounced around, such as life now as a college running back in the transfer portal. Ray Davis's story should be the Hallmark movie. It should be a Lifetime movie. It should be on the big screen, and you should go see it in a movie theater. He grew up one of 14 without parents. His parents were incarcerated. Grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. He bounced around foster home to foster home, homeless shelter to homeless shelter. Again, with 13 siblings, wondering where his next meal would come from. At 8 years old, Ray Davis saw a sign on the street for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. 8 years old. Think about this. Imagine like how resourceful you were or were likely not at 8 years old. So Ray Davis found a telephone and he called Big Brothers and Big Sisters. They told him there's a waiting list. He said, "Can I be on the waiting list?" They said yes. Fast forward a couple of days, weeks, months later, whatever it was, Ray Davis gets a call from Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and they take him in. And he has now a place to stay. Also, at one point in his young life, he asked an elementary school teacher, "Can I come home with you? I have no place to go." They brought him into their home. And that was what he dealt with day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. As a young person growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, through all of that, he persevered and he made it to the National Football League. And he is a damn good player. Ray Davis's story is an amazing story of perseverance, of a young man trying to find his way in the world. It is a tearjerker. It is life-affirming. It is one of my favorite stories in the National Football League. And the preseason is a time for those stories. On the flip side of Ray Davis is Joe Andreesen, Buffalo Joe, as they call him. You see him at the beginning of the episode. You see him at the end of the episode with his family. He is far more than just a guy that showed up at training camp with a Yoda blanket, although we did love that from episode 1. Let's talk about, if we could, Buffalo Joe. How cool is it? Think about this, that you showed up at a tryout camp. You used to wear a Matt Milano jersey, right? You started at something called Bryant College in Division II, and now you're playing with Matt Milano. Now you are a Buffalo Bill. Now you're playing at Highmark Stadium in your hometown where your family can be there in the stands every day. How cool is that? There are other examples of it. Matter of fact, there's a great one in Carolina. You guys know Adam Thielen? He's in his 12th year. He's been a Pro Bowl wide receiver, played on some great Vikings teams, came this close to going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, remember the Minnesota Miracle? That was Stephon Diggs, but he was on the field for that. Anyway, back up. Adam Thielen went to Minnesota State. He grew up in Minneapolis. He showed up, undrafted, of course, at a Vikings tryout camp. Tryout, like they invite local players after the draft. They basically need guys to throw to, and they gave him a contract. Okay, that's cool. That means come back in training camp in July. We'll give you a jersey and a locker, but you're not making the team. Well, he made the team, and then the rest is history. Kevin Stefanski, now the Browns head coach, was an assistant coach with the Vikings. If I had $1 for every time he told the story, and he did it this year to Browns undrafted rookie free agent guys that showed up for a tryout camp, the story of Adam Thielen. I was in Carolina last week, and I was talking to Thielen down there for a joint practice. I'm like, dude, you should get residuals on this, really, from Stefanski, because he wears that story out. Like, you should send him a bill. He laughed about it, joked. He said he always knew that Kevin was going to be a great head coach, but that is the opportunity that all these people have. Yeah, like in Carolina, Ted McMillan, right? Top 10 pick. But all these other guys trying to make the team. And you see it in Buffalo as well, where Joe Andreesen made the team last year as a guy who just showed up. Hopefully he gets 12 years. But you also see one thing to make the team. It's another thing to stay on the team. And that's what we see year 2 and here in episode 2 for Joe Andreesen of Hard Knocks. And we see a little more conflict, right? Kind of like with James Cook, but different. A little more tension and a little more frustration in this episode.
Damn! Come on, bro. Joe, keep him the fuck up, dude. Keep him the fuck up. Come on, bro. Shut your ass up. Shut your ass up. Keep him the fuck up. He's running out of bounds. He's running out of bounds.
So there's a little conflict there, right? Joe Andreesen hits Ty Johnson going to the sideline. Not dirty, but he's going out of bounds, right? It's a teammate. At that point, let your guy go. And that's what Ryan Van Denmark says, right? He comes over, the offensive lineman is like, dude, you can't do that. He's going out of bounds. Come on. And he shoves him a little bit as well. There's no fighting, right? No one's throwing hands, but clearly, and that's the job of the offensive lineman, right? Is to be the enforcer, to protect the running back, to protect the quarterback. That's a big theme in this as well. Protecting Josh Allen. That's throughout the show and throughout really the Bills television broadcast on Saturday. Veterans, they love when the pads come on. Rookies love when the pads come on. But when it comes to the actual game, there are always young guys out there trying to make a play. There are veterans who will tell you, hey man, I don't want to play in the preseason, because you got all these guys trying to make the team who are jumping on the pile late, who are going at your legs, who are going 150 miles an hour because this might be their only shot to get seen. Like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want some freak injury because some guy's trying to make the team. And they always tell you, if you don't make this team, you're trying out for the 31 other teams, because every team looks, all the teams look at all the tape, right? So if I get cut here, if I show something on film, I may get a job elsewhere. Veterans don't want that. They don't. But the younger players do. And here's Joe Andreesen, who's kind of caught in between being a younger player and a veteran. He still needs to make this team. He still is the guy that made the team as an undrafted rookie free agent, a guy that showed up at a tryout camp in May a year ago. So he's still got to go full steam. But at the same time, you got to protect your teammates. You have to. And that is where he is kind of caught in the middle. And that's the beauty of training camp, where everyone has a shot and everyone is trying to make the team and everyone has these big dreams and big aspirations.
Keep working, man. Keep working.
Nobody said this road would be easy. You know, I've been through that. But as long as I'm grinding, as long as I'm working, as long as I'm here, I always got a shot.
Come on, KJ.
Okay, let's get to the two Hams. KJ Hamler, Damar Hamlin. We'll do KJ Hamler first. Every season of Hard Knocks, I mean, go back to Danny Amendola playing a guitar years ago with the Cowboys, or Rex Ryan saying, let's go get a snack, although I'm cleaning it up there a little bit. There's always the ham, always the comedic relief, always the guy you kind of fall in love with because he makes you laugh. In this episode, in this season, it's KJ Hamler.
This bug called the Scoot 3000. You feel what I'm saying? They say they tired of me in the little kid scooter. Say we got to get one for the grown folks. I just wanted to be like the cool kids, that's all.
I love it. KJ Hamler is one of the cool kids, although I don't think one of the cool squirrels actually stole his little kid-sized scooter. Maybe a little kid at St. John's Fisher actually stole the scooter, or maybe it just disappeared into thin air. KJ Hamler makes you laugh, but you know, he also has overcome a lot. I had to write down all his injuries because there have been significant injuries. First of all, tore his ACL in high school, got to Penn State, had a really good career, ended up as a second-round pick of the Denver Broncos, not the Buffalo Bills. But then, after battling hamstring injuries, he tore his ACL again in Denver. Then he came back, and then he tore his pec, which is brutal. Hits keep on coming. He comes back from the pec injury, and then he's diagnosed with a heart condition, and the Broncos basically say, hey, go deal with that. We're going to move on. We love you, but his football career was kind of over. He's bounced around a little bit. He was there in Buffalo in the preseason last year, but here he is trying to make the team. They've had some injuries, a wide receiver. I mean, he might have a legit shot. If you go back and watch the game, KJ Hamler caught a long touchdown in that game, and they show it actually in Hard Knocks. And you see him going, oh bleep, oh bleep, oh bleep, because he's so wide open, he knows he's got to be getting the football here. And then he says on the sideline, like, it had been a while. You know how long it had been? It had been 5 years. KJ Hamler hadn't scored a touchdown in a game, regular season or preseason, in 5 years. So as much as he makes you laugh, understand he's overcome a lot as well. And it's kind of alluded to there a little bit, but they don't really tell that story. He hadn't scored a touchdown since he scored 3 as a rookie. So I'm happy for KJ Hamler. That's one of those great training camp preseason stories of perseverance and redemption. Don't know if he's making the team, but pretty cool that he had that moment. He's more than just the ham. So the flip side of KJ Hamler is the other ham, and that is Damar Hamlin. And we unpack his story a little bit more in episode 2. We also see how he is trying to move forward, trying to play football again. And he's not just trying, he is very much playing football again. We see that he's writing a book. We see his daily affirmation and his devotional. That's what really got me, where he's sitting on the field with his daily gratitude, and he's giving thanks for everyone in his life, both earthly and spiritually. And I kind of got emotional there, I'll be honest with you. I'm the guy that tears up watching. You see Josh Allen talking about that night in Cincinnati 2 years ago in this episode, and you could see how he's still affected. It's also pretty amazing because a year ago, and maybe this wasn't talked a lot about a year ago, but I could tell you around the league, there was serious doubt if Damar Hamlin was going to make the team last year. He came back from injury, and here he is. Most people thought the Bills couldn't cut him. Like, how do you do that emotionally? But I want you to know, it wasn't charity. He made the team because he should have made the team. He's on the team this year because he should be on the team this year. He's a damn good football player. But a year ago at this time, there was legit question around the league if he would make the team. He did make the team, and his story continues to inspire. All right, let's get to the guest. This season of Hard Knocks is introducing you to the team, the town, and the fans. The team, the Bills, the town, Buffalo, and Rochester here for training camp, and the fans, Bills Mafia, as good as there is in the National Football League. The guy who is leading this season from NFL Films, directing this season, knows all three maybe better than anybody. We are thrilled that this guy has taken time to join us because Hard Knocks doesn't sleep, and Pat Harris doesn't sleep either. He's been at NFL Films for well over a decade, but this is the first year that he is the lead director on Hard Knocks. And it just so happens that he is the lead director in his own backyard. He grew up, he played high school football and baseball like 3 miles from where he sits right now at St. John Fisher. We'll get to your backstory in a couple of minutes, Pat Harris, but we are thrilled that you took the time to join us here on the Hard Knocks podcast. How are you, man?
I'm great. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. I've definitely watched the podcast in the past, but I'm excited to be the one that's on it.
Yeah, and we're excited, and I'm sure everyone there is excited as well that you're the man to lead this project. Just big picture here, knowing, Pat, that you grew up a Bills fan, that you are, I think it's fair to say, a member of the Bills Mafia. What is your vision for this season, training camp with the Buffalo Bills?
Like, it's cliche to say, but you want to showcase the Bills in the best way possible, but I think I have a little bit more pride and want to make sure everything we're saying is accurate and represents what the Bills are, and I think I have a good pulse of kind of the team, the culture that Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane have created. I know a lot of these people that Bills fans know, the Josh Allens, the Deion Dawkins, so I've kind of taken it upon myself, and our crew has, to say, what can we tell Bills Mafia, something about these guys they don't already know, but then tell the rest of the country, the rest of the world, really introduce them to these guys and kind of fall in love with them.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? Because Bills Mafia is so embedded, right? I mean, they consume Bills content 24/7. They've seen Deion Dawkins, right? They see Josh Allen out at Wegmans or wherever. And the rest of America sees the Bills in primetime all the time because they've won 5 consecutive division titles and they're a Super Bowl favorite. So how challenging is that to pull back the curtain and show things that we haven't seen?
I think it's like a balance of storytelling where you have to say, hey, you need to introduce them. You need to introduce Deion Dawkins, but then it's on us as directors to kind of develop a relationship with him where we can say, hey, we can go home with Deion Dawkins. What are you doing on an off day? Same with Josh Allen, to just figure out what are you doing when you're not on the football field? Because I think a lot of people know these guys as football players. You know, they pop up randomly on off days, but we can kind of peel back a little bit, a bigger layer to try to introduce them to them.
Pat, take me under the hood. How many cameras? How many members on the crew? I mean, we're mic'd up and we have cameras in pretty much every meeting room, right?
Yeah, so we have about 18 to 20 robotic cameras. Kind of varies between St. John Fisher and Buffalo. At practice, we'll have 8 cameras every day. We got 6 that are on the field, 2 that are one top camera, and then 1 in the end zone. We're micing up between 5 and 8 players and coaches every single day. With all that stuff that we're capturing, it's usually about 300 hours worth of footage that we'll capture for every 1 hour that makes TV.
300.
So, 300.
That's absurd.
100%. It every time I say it, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. It's kind of insane when you really lay it out that we're doing it in real time and we're sending that much back. People are logging it, ingesting it, putting together a show with it. Like, it's kind of bananas.
Players always, you see this all the time, tell their teammates when they walk out on the field, hey, I'm mic'd up, right? Not necessarily be careful, but sometimes like it brings good stuff out of their teammates, right? You loosen people up a bit. They make fun of each other. For Hard Knocks, everybody is mic'd up. I know you said 5 or 8 guys every day, but the cameras are always there. How do you get the Bills or any team, you've worked on this for a decade, to totally be themselves, even though they are cognizant that they're always kind of sort of being watched?
I think it's on us as like the crew to just be around, be friendly, kind of develop a very minor but a relationship with these players so we don't feel like just strange faces every time they turn around. It's crazy to say, but our shirts definitely help. It doesn't feel like something like, hey, what's this bright white thing that's coming behind us in a shirt? We try to blend in. So when we're on the practice field, people don't notice us as much. And not to be in like a sneaky way, but I think you just kind of fit in with all the bodies and football people that are around the team and the facility. So we try to blend in as much as we can. And it's usually players get pretty comfortable with us fairly quickly.
Do you feel that some guys turn it on for the camera, like they're performative because they know you guys are there?
A little bit. You get that every year with teams. A lot of times those usually don't translate over to our show. That's just not the brand, the style. I think we're trying to document reality and natural stuff. So anytime players ham it up a little bit too much, it might pop up for like a soundbite here and there, or like a good social clip. But a lot of times it's the guys that are just acting as normal as they would, whether they have it or not. Because you get some players sometimes that don't tell people that they're mic'd up and kind of say, hey, I'm going to be me, you guys be you. Like, there's a trust level with us and with them that we're not going to do wrong by them in any way. So we've had a few guys over the years that just won't say anything, and they just act like themselves.
Well, how does the idea that the Bills are one of the few teams, I mean, the Rams go to LMU, but I mean, they're basically at home. The fact that the Bills are legitimately an hour away from home, and you do have those scenes, and you are in dorm rooms, how does that change this show as compared to maybe other episodes or other seasons you guys have done in the past?
I think it's a little bit more intimate. I think we try to showcase the team bonding as much. I think a lot of times in years when practice ends, players kind of disperse, and maybe you get, a couple buddies that are going here or there. I think this is the opportunity where players are constantly congregating, constantly hanging around each other, getting haircuts together on campus, stuff like that is unique to the Bills and unique to, being at St. John Fisher.
2 episodes in the can so far. Whether it's as a fan or a director, favorite players or staff behind the scenes that you've gotten to get to know or gotten to film so far?
Tre'Davious White, he's incredible.
Yeah.
I've had a brief relationship with him prior to this, working on a couple different projects. So I was very excited when I knew he was coming back. I had a chance to reconnect and be with him on an off the field shoot. And his personality is infectious. He's just the happiest guy ever. Being, I think, out in the community, and he was so willing to just talk with people, take pictures. Like, it was very commendable that he came back home and he really just embraced it.
I thought it was so cool, not only seeing him in the ice cream shop at Pittsford Dairy in episode 1, but seeing him on the podium that first week of camp as well. 'Cause you talked about the joy, not that he didn't like LA or Baltimore, but the thank God I'm back here. There's 2 sides of it, I think, that the thank God I'm back here, but almost thank God I'm myself again. I'm healthy again. That joy comes through the screen.
No question. I think we wanted to embrace that. And that's why, introducing him in episode 1, because I think he is such a focal point with the team, with Bills fans, that he's somebody that people want to root for. They want to see, they want to check in how he's doing. Because as we saw at Pittsburgh Dairy, everybody knows Trey. That's just how he is.
And everyone knows Deion Dawkins as well. I thought the camera shot was pretty badass, honestly. That aerial with the car, even though Coco, the daughter, was in the front seat, which kind of freaked me out, to be honest with you. How long did it take to set up? I saw there was a GoPro on the dashboard as well. Those are some cool shots.
No question. So we actually found out about that shoot the night before. It was about 9:00. We're coming home from dinner and we get a call that, hey, we're going to do A with Deion, and all of a sudden we're going to do X with Deion. And I think, as we learned with Deion, you just say, let's do it. Let's figure out how to do it. So we kind of scrambled. We have a crew member who flies a drone. Hey, Drake, can you get up and fly the drone? Great. We got 3 crews that are there. They got there a couple hours beforehand. They set up the car. They did some, their B-roll stuff. It was probably the best representation of our crew, and just they can roll with anything that we've had in recent memory, because, the shoot itself turned out incredible. But to know it really was probably coordinated in 12 hours at night is pretty incredible for our crew.
How fast is he actually going there?
Maybe a 30 mile an hour, 40. I'm not entirely sure. But the one thing I did learn is that the tires get, I think, so destroyed when he's doing it that really you have to stop down and change a set of tires almost every time you're doing it.
You could practically smell the burning rubber coming through the screen.
I know our crew said that. They said their hair, they said their clothes definitely smelled like burning rubber once they were done.
That's wild. All right, so we get to know Deion Dawkins, and in episode 2, we get to know both Sean McDermott and Damar Hamlin. I want to start with Damar Hamlin, because everybody remembers his story, and everybody remembers the emotions that they felt, not only when he was injured and on the field in Cincinnati, but when he returned to the field, when he was at NFL honors up there on stage, walking, and the ovation. It's still I'm getting chills, pulls at your heartstring. What's it like to pull back the curtain and show America this Damar Hamlin, who is back and playing football, and people, not that they forget the story, but it's Damar Hamlin, the football player. He's back.
We had a lot of conversations about that, because I think obviously he's probably the most, outside of Josh Allen, probably the most well-known player on the Buffalo Bills. We didn't want to just completely tell that story about Damar. I think it's a story that's been told. It's something that will be with him forever. I think we want to acknowledge that it's an incredible piece of him, but also the next chapter is Damar Hamlin, the football player. He can just focus on football. So we took the time to really lean into some cool, creative, visual sound driven stuff, to kind of tell that story that, hey, he is now focused on football player. That's never not going to be a part of him, but I think he wants to be known as Damar Hamlin, the football player.
Also in episode 2, kind of pull the curtain back on Sean McDermott, who has led this team through these 5 straight division titles, who has heard the criticism from both in Western New York and from afar that this team can't get over the hump. Pat, what do we learn about Sean McDermott while shooting Hard Knocks?
I think you learn kind of what makes him who he is. I think pulling back to his time when he was with the Eagles, briefly in Carolina, and then now at the Bills, that how he's been molded into the coach that he's become. I think some of the hardships that he's had with battling skin cancer, I think knowing that skin cancer and preventing it is very important to him. So I thought that was a very cool piece of his story that we're able to tell. But also to learn, like, knowing his relationship with Jim Johnson and how important that was to molding him into the coach he was today. It lets people who not only know Sean McDermott, but might not know Sean McDermott, learn about him in a different way.
Jim Johnson, the legendary Eagles defensive assistant, and it's not only Sean McDermott, but Jim Schwartz. So many people off that Jim Johnson tree have gone to great heights in the NFL, and Sean McDermott is one of them. I also found it interesting, Pat, when doing a little research here before you and I sat down, that Sean McDermott kind of gave you the stamp of approval. So let's get back to you here. You are from Rochester. You played high school football. You were a quarterback. You pitched in Rochester growing up here. Matter of fact, you threw a no-hitter. Did I get that right?
Wow, good,
right.
Good research. I did.
The Bills were not your standard Hard Knocks team. Like, we've talked about that. Normally, it's a team like the Bears last year. But I have a quote here from Sean McDermott about you. When he introduced himself and said where he was from, it kind of gave me a little bit of ease of, hey, okay, he knows our fan base. He knows our culture. He knows the traditions of the Buffalo Bills and what matters to the people. And he's a little bit more invested naturally when you're from this area. So Sean McDermott gives you the stamp of approval. When you heard him say that, your reaction was what?
I mean, it makes you feel good on the inside. I think that was my hope coming in. You know, I think in our line of work, being in the NFL, being in media, you aren't advertising who you're a fan of. Everybody has their own allegiances, but this was the first time that you almost can say, like, no, I embraced it and said, I obviously have followed the Bills. I followed Sean. I followed Brandon. Like, I'm watching them as often as I can. So I think I was hoping that would put them at ease. So it was incredible to hear that it did have that effect. And I've tried to, I think, preemptively handle some things and talk through some storylines, knowing the team, knowing the fan base, knowing how Sean and Brandon operate. But hopefully I think it'll continue to kind of grow, and it kind of helps with that trust. Like, that's really what this job is all about, is getting a team, getting a coaching staff, players that trust you. So the fact that I was almost able to start on the right foot in the best way possible, I think that only has helped us since we've been here.
Great. I can honestly relate a little bit. I do Browns games, and you grow up a fan, right? I mean, I live and die with it on Sunday. I would do Red Zone Channel, and I did once punch a monitor and break a monitor, but that'll be a story for another time for the book one day. But you want to do it right. Like, you want to do the fan base right. Remember the first game I called, Jake Moody missed a field goal for the 49ers. The Browns won the game, and I lost it. People love the call. It still makes me uncomfortable. Like, it when I listen to it. Is there any part of you that was even maybe not comfortable, but a little more anxious that it was the Bills? I mean, this isn't Jared Goff in a helicopter with the Rams. This is your team.
There's definitely a greater sense of pride. I mean, in a way, like a greater sense of pressure, not only on myself, but I got plenty of friends and family that will let me know if I don't live up to their expectations, realistic or unrealistic. So I was excited, but I've embraced the surrealness of it all, I guess, because I'm coming back home, because it's my favorite team, first time in this role. Like, it doesn't really work like this. I think my wife's tried to encourage me to, like, it's okay to be excited about it and, like, embrace it and not feel like, oh, just waiting for something to go wrong or, anything like that. So I've tried to take moments throughout camp, and I think it's just happens naturally to say, like, this is pretty awesome, and hopefully I can remember this one, and this will be probably the best Hard Knocks yet.
I mean, what would the 10-year-old Pat think about this?
I mean, he'd lose his mind. Like, I think one, he'd probably think, like, oh, you're not playing for the Bills? Like, okay. But I think the fact that this is the alternative, it's like, I mean, how could you not? Like, the fact that I'm standing on the sidelines watching Josh Allen throw a touchdown and then, get to go and interview him after, whatever it is. But yeah, I try to tell myself with the long days and everything that, 10-year-old you would, lose his mind if he knew this was where you're at.
10-year-old Pat would love it. 10-year-old Andrew, I know, would love it as well. Is there any part of this that's like a love letter to Rochester for you? Like whether it's Pittsford Dairy or any of the other scenes around St. John Fisher, like this is your backyard too.
I think so. That's what I try to instill and like tell our crew as we're talking through creative storylines, knowing not only the area, you're flying drone, make sure we go to some cool spots to really show it off. I think Pittsford Dairy was one we knew was going to come up, showcasing Bills Mafia, showcasing these fans. I think it's pretty unique. We've been to a lot of different areas that have very good fans, but I think this is very special that every single day, every practice is open and there's only, I think, 11 or 12 of them, but every single day is packed. You get the same cheer when these players come out. You get the same cheer when they leave, So I think we wanted to find a way to showcase that as much as possible, not only in episode 1, but in episode 2.
Last thing for you, because I mentioned the Rams there. I mentioned 10 of 11 of these Hard Knocks. You took one off because your wife was expecting. Good man. Also, like All or Nothing and Quarterback. Like, this isn't the only project from NFL Films you've worked on. Do you have, and this might be an impossible question, do you have a favorite Hard Knocks moment?
So yeah, this is a pretty cool one. So in Vegas, or with the Raiders, I guess at that point they were in Napa. It was during the Antonio Brown saga. So he comes back, he's working his way back up, he's training, he's kind of doing a workout, and we were filming his workout, and he had a trainer with him. The trainer was throwing passes. Well, unfortunately, the trainer could not throw passes and keep up with Antonio Brown. So the director at the time, Shannon Furman's like, kind of jokingly said, like, Pat, like, we might need you to throw. And I'm just kind of like laughing. And then we see it and it's like, oh no, I think I'm going to have to. So ran into the equipment room. Hey, can I get a football? They're kind of like, sure. Put on a neutral shirt, put on some sunglasses for my own peace of mind. And then I ended up throwing passes to Antonio Brown for a workout that ended up airing in the show. And I had just gotten married that year. And my wife even said, I know that that's probably going to be cooler than our wedding, but it definitely was very close. And even just, that was a pretty surreal experience. Getting pictures from our crew, taking it, sending it to friends and family. That was one that I'll probably always remember.
Pat, it's amazing. Thank you for doing this. Like I said, I know this one means a little bit more to you, and clearly we've seen that through the first couple of episodes. Best of luck the rest of the way. This is so cool.
This is a pretty awesome experience. So even being on the podcast with you guys and talking to you is very surreal. So appreciate that.
How cool is that for Pat? It's kind of like Joe Andreesen, except Pat's the director. Hometown team, grew up 5 minutes away, could ride his bike to training camp, and now he gets to direct it. Anyway, moving on. Let's get to our MVP of the week. Our MVP of the week, I want to go back to these origin stories. Number one, MVP of the week, CPR awareness through Damar Hamlin, and he has done great work, and he continues to do that great work. The Bills and Damar Hamlin are trying to raise awareness for CPR training, and he's going to continue to do that, and that is part of his story that will never go away. And also being sun smart. We see Sean McDermott's skin cancer battle there, and how much he wraps up, and he puts the big hat on, and he puts the jacket on. That is vital. I wear long sleeves at every single training camp practice. I get, and I'm not kidding, I get so much grief from people. Why are you in long sleeves? Usually like young social media interns. I'm like, guys, you're out in the sun every day for an entire summer. And then the season begins. Look at all the coaches out there. It's not just Sean McDermott. All around the National Football League, coaches wear long sleeves. Dry fit. Protect yourself. You're in the sun all day.
So this is the gamut of sunscreen that I like to take to the beach with me. Really just kidding, really just practice. Dealing with skin cancer overall, it's been a challenge. My wife says it's kind of my lot. It's what I deal with, right?
Being sun smart is not just a Sean McDermott thing. It is an around the league thing. Being sun smart, also one of our MVPs this week. Actually, can I mention one more MVP? That's Frank Gore Jr. He really ran well on Saturday. You see him at the end of the episode. Frank Gore Jr. is 23 years old. His old man is 42 years old. He retired after the 2020 season. Honestly, kind of sort of feels like yesterday. The idea that Frank Gore Sr. played for the Bills. Frank Gore Jr. is now playing for the Bills. He was there last year as an undrafted free agent, didn't make the team, but hung around on the practice squad. He has a shot this year as well. And again, a lot of it goes back to James Cook and Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. It is a very deep running back room, pretty much the same running back room from last year. But how old do you feel that Frank Gore Jr. is out there? That's going to do it for episode 2 of the Hard Knocks podcast. I want to thank Pat Harris for joining us. What a cool story, and love seeing the touches, his vision that he is putting on this show as a member of the Bills Mafia and as a hometown guy. Tune in next week. Maybe we see Josh Allen at a preseason game. Maybe we get some resolution to the James Cook contract hold in one way or the other. Tune in and find out. As always, this is a conversation with you, whether it's the Bills fan, the Hard Knocks fan, or just the NFL fan. So please feel free to comment on the YouTube stream, Instagram, X. You could find me there. Andrew Siciliano, common spelling. I'm even on the TikTok as well, but I don't go there that often. There's a dot between Andrew and Siciliano on TikTok. Appreciate the comments. Leave us a comment on YouTube. We always want to make this an interactive thing, so talk back to us. We will be back here for episode 3 of the Hard Knocks podcast after episode 3 drops, which is Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on HBO Max. The Hard Knocks podcast is a production of HBO and NFL Films in partnership with Pod People. The show is produced by Buffy Gorilla, Tony Mantilla, and Brian Rivers. The episode was edited for video by Kai Lee. Carter Wogan is our sound designer. Special thanks to Michael Gluckstadt and to Kenya Reyes from the HBO podcast team, and to Ken Rogers, Katie Morello, and Pat Harris at NFL Films. I'm your host, Andrew Siciliano. Thanks for watching and listening. I actually have a bunch of Yoda toys here. I should have included Yoda toys here. Found someone you have. I just did a Yoda impression. I'm really good at that.